And this is one of the things that, I can never figure out, because people are, again, they're very suspicious of businesses and businessmen, yet they can have complete trust in politicians.
Disgusting.
Like, you give politicians all this power, and then you trust them to use it benevolently. I mean, why aren't they just as corrupt? Just because somebody uses politics to get rich doesn't mean they're on some moral high ground.
Well, even worse, this idea that if you give more of your taxes, that the government is somehow or another going to be competent with how they distribute those taxes.
No.
And that there's some going to be egalitarian. They're going to use the taxes for good. Like that. That's a very disgusting sort of an idea.
And the idea
doesn't make
that,
any sense at all.
Or the idea that government is going to make better decisions for you or your family than you are. Right? I mean, the government doesn't even know you. They don't know your kids. Yet they're going to decide, what they eat or where they go to school, or no. The people that care about your kids are you. Right? You care. I mean, look at these lousy schools that, unfortunately, that's why so many people vote for Bernie Sanders, is because they went through these government schools and they got a lousy education. Their teacher is a socialist. The whole socialist system. But the parents are trapped because their taxes are already paying for these lousy schools. They're monopolies, and so, but if the liberals act as if, well, if we didn't have government schools, then parents wouldn't educate their kids. Of course they would. You don't think they would send their kids to private schools? And they'd be a lot less expensive. And you'd have all kinds of entrepreneurs who are trying to earn money educating poor kids, just like people earn a lot of money clothing poor kids and feeding poor kids and housing them. I mean, if there's money to be made, an entrepreneur is going to come in and satisfy that desire.
So are you against public education? Or do you think that do you think it shouldn't be subsidized the way it is, like especially colleges?
Well, look, I think that government education is much too expensive and not good enough. I mean, people think that, we need the government to educate. And I think, education is very important. And I don't think it's so important, we just shouldn't leave it up to government. I think that the free market, just like the free market does a better job of creating computers, right? I think it'll do a better job of creating education. And
when people are struggling, they really like the idea that at least education is free for their children.
It's not free. Nothing that the government provides is free. It costs money. Right? Where's that money coming from?
Your taxes.
The government has to take money. And the stuff that you get for free from the government is very expensive. The stuff that you get from the free market that you pay for is much less expensive, and it's a much higher quality. Now, the problem with colleges, right? We have a lot of colleges that are not run necessarily by government, but why are they so expensive? Because the government subsidizes university tuition by either guaranteeing loans or directly providing loans to students. And this drives up the price of college. The reason that college is so expensive is because of government subsidizing the cost. So there is no free market to control the cost. You just have the government to subsidize the ever-escalating costs and providing all this money. So now, people go to college and they graduate with a mortgage without a house. That's the government that's did that. But you have these liberals. They think the government is helping them. Like the liberal will say, vote for me and I'll make sure you get a loan so you can go to college. Well, the only reason they need a loan is because the college is so expensive. And why is the college so expensive? Because of the loans. My father went to college and his parents didn't have any money because they were poor, right? Lower middle class. But so he worked his way through college by having a summer job. And that summer job was enough to pay for everything, room, board, tuition, and all of his friends worked their way through college. Why can't Americans work their way through college today? Because the government made college so expensive because of all the loans. But what happened is the government said, hey, you don't have to have a job while you're in college. We'll just guarantee a loan, and you'll just be able to borrow the money. But, graduating with a bunch of debt doesn't do the kids any favors. They would have been better off, paying, having a summer job instead of just partying all summer or bumming their summers around Europe while they're borrowing money.
Well, there's two giant issues with that. One giant issue with the debt is you're getting out of college and you're going to take a job that's probably not going to pay you a whole lot in the first place, and you're saddled down with who knows how many thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. And then on top of that, you can't even go bankrupt and dissolve that debt. It's the one debt in this country that you're stuck with forever.
Look, it is terrible. Kids take on this debt when they're 17, 18, 19.
And they're not making good decisions.
No, they're terrible decisions. They're horrible decisions. Look, they don't understand. They don't know anything about money. They're too young.
Or consequences.
Yeah, and they've been fed a lie that, well, if you don't go to college, your life is ruined. You'll never, I do some of my videos on my channel, my YouTube channel, and one of the videos that I did, and I wish it got more views, and maybe it will, but I can talk about it on your show.
So what is the YouTube channel? Tell people.
Peter Schiff. Peter.
Just your name.
Yeah, my name is the Schiff Report. But one of the videos I did, and I call is a college degree worth the cost? You decide. And I did this like 4 years ago down in New Orleans, and I went down the street and I was asking people who were working. I didn't talk to people who were just there to have drinks. I worked to the people who were working on Bourbon Street, right? They were strippers, they were bouncers, they were pedicab drivers, they were bartenders, they were taking out the trash cans. And I didn't discriminate. I asked everybody I saw, and almost everybody I talked to is on this video. I mean, very few people didn't make it. And I basically said, did you go to college? When did you graduate, right? What was your major, and how much do you owe, right? And every single person that I talked to that was doing a menial job, and some of them had 2 or 3 degrees, right? Master's degrees, and this is all. And the point was, and some people thought I was trying to make fun of the people, and I wasn't trying to make fun of anybody. I was trying to prove a point that this was a complete waste of time and money. That these individuals could have done these jobs without college. They could have done it right out of high school without all this debt, and that just having these degrees didn't mean anything. Who benefited from these degrees? The universities that sold these overpriced degrees. They benefited. That's who benefits from all these college loans, not these kids who borrow $50,000 and now are emptying trash cans because they got some liberal arts degree that's meaningless. It's the universities, the college that got to overcharge for a degree that the kid would have been better off without. And then there's also the opportunity cost. You spend 5 or 6 years now in these overcrowded colleges. It used to be 4 years, but now it's so hard to get to classes that sometimes it takes you 5 or 6 years to even graduate, and you graduate with nothing. You've got a worthless degree. You've got politicians that are saying everybody needs to have a college degree. Okay, well, if everybody has one, what's it worth? Nothing. At one point, maybe 1 in 10 people had a college degree, and then it actually meant something because you had something that not everybody else has. But, if everybody has a degree, then you've actually destroyed the value of the degree. And that's what the government has done. They've made a degree extremely expensive to get, but there's very little value. And you have all these politicians, or not politicians, maybe colleges. They'll try to say, look at how much more money people make who have college degrees versus people who don't have college degrees. And they assume that the reason for that is the college degree. Again, it's false statistics, right? Because think about the typical person who chooses to go to college. They're smarter, they're more ambitious, they're harder working. That's why they're making more money, not because they have a degree, right? So if you probably looked at 2 individuals from the same circumstances, maybe same high school, same demographic, they got the same GPA, they got the same SAT scores, one went to college and one didn't, and then you followed them, you might find that the guy that had the gumption to skip college is actually making more money than the guy who went to college. Maybe he started a business. Maybe he gained some real world experience, and then he wasn't encumbered by a bunch of debt. Right? So it's not the college degree at this point. Now, yeah, if you want to be a doctor, sure, you got to go to college or you got to go to med school. But there are a lot of things that you don't need a college degree to do. And a lot of people who are doing them have college degrees. And their success is not a function of that college degree. It's a function of the hard work that they did after they left college.
Well, education is very important, but you can get a tremendous amount of education today. And this is not, the 1800s. You can get it online.
Oh, yeah.
You can get it through books. You can get it through audio courses.
I mean,
There's just so much available.
I'm not anti-education. I think people should educate
you're
themselves.
You're anti-debt, and you're anti the college debt that people are
Well, I'm
settled
anti
down
the
with.
government saying the only way to get educated is to have a school do it. I mean, there are a lot of Americans. We talked about, Robert E. Lee, but you go to the Founding Fathers. A lot of these guys were all self-educated men. They didn't necessarily go to college. Some of them did, but a lot of them were self-educated. And believe me, back then, educating yourself was pretty hard. I mean, the only books you had were the ones that you could check out of a library. I mean, now anybody, any kid in a poor inner city has everything at his fingertips. You could go on the internet and you can teach yourself. And in fact, professors can sell courses online. You don't have to, go to a college. Some professor can have a tutorial site and he can charge like, $10 a month, and he could give lectures and he could teach. You can learn all sorts of stuff without enriching some government bureaucracy, some college or university, and you don't have to borrow tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn what you can learn for practically nothing on the internet.